New testimony in the trial of former police officer Dereck Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. Paramedics, first responders who arrived on the scene taking the stand today. Seth Bravender saying when he saw the officers on top of Floyd that he thought Floyd must be resisting, but then said that he saw he wasn't moving or breathing. His partner Dereck Smith saying when he got closer to George Floyd, he thought he was dead. George Floyd's girlfriend, Courtney Ross, also testifying today about their struggle with opioids. ABC's Alex Perez again tonight from Minneapolis.
Today, paramedic Seth Bravender testifying that when the ambulance arrived on the scene, he thought police were still wrestling with George Floyd.
Multiple officers on top of the patient. We pulled up at that point. I assumed that there was potentially some struggle still because they were still on top of him.
But when he got out of the ambulance, he realized that wasn't the case.
I didn't see any breathing or movement or anything like that.
Did he appear to be unresponsive to you at that point in time?
From what I could tell, just standing from a distance, yes.
The other paramedic, Dereck Smith, approached Floyd.
The officer was still on him when I approached.
And what did his condition appear to be to you overall?
In lay terms, I thought he was dead.
You can see Smith here taking Floyd's pulse, former officer Dereck Chauvin still with his knee on Floyd's neck. The paramedic testifying Floyd had no heartbeat and wasn't breathing, and that police were doing nothing to help.
There was no medical services being provided to the patient.
In the ambulance, Smith says he tried his best to save Floyd.
To save a being, and I was trying to give him a second chance at life.
But it was too late.
I showed up, he was deceased, and I dropped him off at the hospital, and he was still in cardiac arrest.
After the ambulance left, Chauvin got a call from his supervisor, Sergeant David Pluger. He had heard from a concerned 911 dispatcher who was watching the scene play out over security camera. She testified that she thought the video had frozen because the officers were on top of Floyd for so long. She says she knew something was wrong and called the sergeant.
You can call me a snitch if you want to, and all of them sat on this man. So I don't know if they needed you or not.
The sergeant then calling Chauvin. This is what Chauvin told him.
We just had to hold the guy down. He was going crazy.
But the sergeant testified that in that phone call, Chauvin never told him he had pinned Floyd down with a knee on his neck. Today, the jury also hearing from Floyd's girlfriend of 3 years, Courtney Ross.
We saw each other as much as we possibly could.
She acknowledged they abused prescription drugs.
It's a classic story of how many people get addicted to opioids. We both suffered from chronic pain. Mine was in my neck and his was in his back. We got addicted and tried really hard to break that addiction many times.
Under cross-examination, she confirmed that Floyd was hospitalized after an overdose in March.
And it was your belief that Mr. Floyd started using again about 2 weeks prior to his death, correct?
I noticed a change in his behavior, yes.
The defense argues drugs contributed to Floyd's death, and today Chauvin's attorney also seeming to imply that in Floyd's final moments, when he called out Mama, he was actually calling for his girlfriend.
You and Floyd, Mr. Floyd, excuse me, I'm assuming like most couples had pet names for each other?
Yeah.
And what was his name for you? I mean, what were you saved, let me strike that. What were you saved in his phone as?
Mama.
The prosecutor quickly trying to dismantle that theory that Floyd was calling for his girlfriend and not his mother.
What did he call his mother? What did he refer to her as?
He called her Mama too.
That moment getting a lot of attention today. Alex Perez with us again tonight from Minneapolis. And Alex, I want to get back to the paramedics and what were prosecutors trying to do today with testimony from the first responders, all echoing one another. One paramedic saying he thought George Floyd was dead.
Yeah, David, prosecutors are trying to prove that George Floyd died on the scene. Those EMTs and a fire captain all testifying that they believe he was dead when they arrived. Their testimony helping to hammer home two key points that the prosecutor is trying to prove to the jury, that Dereck Chauvin assaulted Floyd and that his actions killed him. David?
Alex Perez live in Minneapolis tonight. Alex, thank you.